Hey, ladies and gents, it's time for another exciting art project with me, Miss Pastorius. Well, I hope it's exciting. So this week, we are going to take a page out of Yayoi Kusama's book and make some pumpkins. And you could say, these pumpkins are for the month of October, because pumpkins tend to grow in around this time of year, and people go and pick them and put them outside and everything. But the reason that Yayoi Kusama painted pumpkins and drew pumpkins, like she painted physical sculptures that were pumpkins, and she also did like paintings that were pumpkins. And she did this because she grew up in pre-war Japan. And she moved to the United States in the 50s. So that was right after Japan was hit with two really huge bombs. And that ended World War II. But before that time, she had a pumpkin farm with her family. So she ended up drawing a lot of pumpkins. And that's what's inspiring us today. So another thing about Yayoi Kusama, I'm going to attach a video from her, but she is very recognizable as an artist because she does so many dots. And she doesn't just do dots, she'll also do patterns in the background of her work, and we're actually going to do that too. So we are going to draw a pumpkin today, and I know that this paper that I have, you might not think that it's necessarily pumpkin colored, it's yellow, but I'm actually looking at her artwork right now on my computer, and her pumpkin is a little bit more yellowish. So we are going to go with that, a yellowish pumpkin. And I'm going to show you how to draw one. So let's get started. So I've got my paper right here, right? Maybe I'll raise it up here. And that is perfect. And what I'm going to start with is a smile curve, or a curve that looks like a smile. I'm going to call it a smile curve at the bottom. And then I'm going to go to the sides, and I'm going to draw some more curves. Some more sort of angled curves that are going upwards. So you can see it's going up like this. And then on the other side, I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to do some more curves just like that. So this is going to be the base of my pumpkin. And I think I'll do one more little curve on this side. And then we're bringing this big swooping line up top. Like that. So it's a big swoop of a line. And then from the top, obviously, we're going to have a sort of, what do they call those? The root, not the root, the branch of the pumpkin, the handle of the pumpkin. I must be just forgetting the word. But we're putting that on the top of our pumpkin. Here, and I'll bring this up closer so we can see. We've got our pumpkin almost finished with the shape. So we're gonna close off that shape right there. So now we have the shape of our pumpkin. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna define those lines of our pumpkin a little bit better. So these curves that I had at the bottom, I'm pulling them up to the top here, up to the root, the top of the pumpkin. So got this one here, and it's kind of got a curve at the top too, which I'm gonna do. So that this root is kind of curved, or has the curved edges. And just like that, we actually have a drawing of a pumpkin that I think looks pretty good. And so what are we gonna do next? I actually want to shade this just a little bit. So if you have a white colored pencil or a white crayon, you can do this. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to color the middle part of my pumpkin just a little bit with some white colored pencil. And you can do this or you can choose not to do this, it's up to you. I'm just going through the middle of each little section that I created. And I'm putting some white colored pencil in there, and you probably can't even see in my video me doing this white colored pencil. But I am putting some white colored pencil on there to give it some brightness right in the middle before we start putting our dots in here, because that's going to be a big feature of this pumpkin, the dots, the black dots that we're going to put all over it. And so if you want, you can do more details with your pumpkin, but I think I am going to get started with actually the dots on my pumpkin. So how am I going to do these dots? Let's figure it out, because there is a specific way that I would like you to do the dots if you can. You don't have to do them this way, but I think it'll look nice and it'll look a little bit closer to Yayoi Kusama's piece. So we'll have that. So I'm starting right in the middle. Oops, I'm going for this one. And I'm gonna do the biggest dots right in the middle here. Let's see, yeah, they're a little bit closer together. So maybe I'll do a little one right here. They're pretty close together. And I haven't filled them in yet. I might just draw the dots first and then fill them in a time lapse, so you guys don't have to wait a really long time to watch me color in all these dots. So I'm doing some big dots here. And then I think I'll do some big dots that sort of follow these curves that I've done on my pumpkin, right? And I'm still looking at Yayoi Kusama's piece for reference pretty much all the time as I'm drawing this. I like to do this. This has been something that's very helpful for me when I'm drawing, is to always have a reference image. So this might be helpful for you. You might have a slightly better memory than I do maybe, and you might be able to remember what it looks like a little bit better, but I always like having my reference photo right there, ready to go. Recently, this artist, she's pretty old now. She was very active in the 60s, and I'll show that in the video that I show you guys about her. I'm just going to link, I think it's from CNN, the video that I'm going to link for you guys. But she was very active in the 60s, and she filled like entire rooms with these dots that she did. And to be a Japanese woman in the modern art scene in the 60s could not have been easy, right? Because the war, I mean, you may or may not know that in World War II, we were at war with Japan. And so, and after the war, we weren't so friendly to the Japanese people. And so I can't imagine her life was easy at that time in the 60s. It's just an interesting thing. But she's been active as an artist for all this time in the United States. That's pretty cool. So I've got these dots. And the reason I'm having you watch this is because after this, like right next to these dots, sort of off center, I'm going to draw some smaller dots, right? They're not as big as the ones I put right in the center. They're a little bit smaller. and they're sort of off center. So I'm going around the dots I made with my pumpkin. And so the further we go from the center line of dots, the dots will get smaller and smaller. So you could do this with marker, with colored pencil, oil pastel, obviously whatever you have to draw these dots you can use. I'm going with my trusty markers that I use quite frequently, as you can probably tell at this point. So we're filling up this whole thing with dots. I think I will do a time lapse for you guys so you don't have to watch me draw all these dots. But like I said, from the center where the biggest dots are out, you're drawing smaller dots, like slightly smaller. So that's what we've got, and I will be back with that time lapse.
Okay guys, here I am. I'm coloring the dots for this picture. I'm taking my time and I'm doing the biggest dots in the middle of that little part of the pumpkin and the smaller dots on the side where the pumpkin sort of curves inward. So I just wanted to explain that. Do the best you can with this pumpkin or squash. I took my time with these dots and it will look nice in the end.
Okay guys, so I just finished up that time lapse doing all these dots, and it did take quite a while to draw all these dots. So just keep that in mind. The bigger the dots, the fewer you will have to draw. So that's a thing to think about when you're doing this. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw some triangles in the background. And the cool thing about these triangles is we can make them kind of fit together when we put them on here. So here, I'll show you how. If we do one triangle and fit it within another triangle, and we're kind of just doing this around our shape, and we're making it so it's sort of like, it complements the shape of the pumpkin that we already have, right? I'm drawing these triangles around it, but they fit within the shape. So I want you to do that all over your paper. You draw these triangles that sort of fit together. And I know this is a lot of drawing, so you'll probably want to take a break after you do all the pumpkin dots when you do the triangles, because your hands probably will hurt a little bit after doing all this. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. I'm even making these triangles a little bit irregular so they fit together nicely in this little design that we're doing. So that's our next part, and I'll do another time lapse. Like I think I said that before. I'll do another time lapse drawing and coloring all these triangles. So once again, the video doesn't get too long. So I'll be back with that.
Okay guys, here I am drawing these little triangles around my squash or pumpkin. I first drew them all and then I colored them all in. This took a while, so I'm not saying that you have to do this for the background. It does make a good looking background, but it is time consuming, so keep that in mind.
Okay, and we're back, guys, and I am all finished with this drawing. I think it looks really nice, especially from far away. So I draw these triangles and I color them in with a black marker. I would recommend, if you are going to do this, make your triangles big, and also use a thin tipped pen to draw the triangles, and then you can fill them in with a thicker tip pen, and that'll make it nice and give those nice corners, because even I was trying to add some sharper corners to my triangle after I had colored them all in with a thinner tip marker. But give this a shot. With this project, if you do the whole thing with all the dots and all the triangles and everything, it will take you quite a while. So do the best you can. Try to get the dots in the pumpkin, draw the dots. You can do the background if you like. I think it looks really good, but if it's too much for you, I understand, that's fine. But here you go, here's the project. I hope you guys enjoy doing this, and I can't wait to see them. Bye-bye.